Are we the last to arrive? I hope we've not kept you waiting.
Not at all. Your comrade is feeling better, I trust.
Much better, thank you. Harness remedies are certainly potent, in more ways than one.
One becomes accustomed to the taste, although I hope you never have cause to do so. Pray, take your ease.
Full glad I am to see you all unharmed.
Valiant scions, for your heroism, you have my boundless gratitude. You cast down that dire tower and set free its hapless captives. You cleanse their souls of its corrupting influence. No words of thanks will suffice. In place of platitudes, I offer a bounty of warding scales. Pray accept your due reward, along with the goodwill of Radzatan.
Alchemists throughout the land were put to work in the forging of your talismans. The finished ones have been collected, and now await you at the High Crucible of Alchemia. Present this letter when you are ready to take them into your possession.
We are humbled by your generosity. Know that the inventive wisdom of Radzatan will be vital in restoring serenity to our star.
Every single one of those scales came from you, didn't they? You must still be in such pain.
"'Tis of no moment. A mere annoyance compared to the dreadful suffering inflicted upon this land and its people.
Albeit brief, my involvement in the Dragonsong War afforded me a glimpse of the myriad sorrows which consumed both dragon and man. Though you were half a world away, such tragedies as befell your kin must have affected you deeply. And yet, you chose to live among men.
In the age when that conflict first bloomed, my choice had already been made. In some distant place, man slew dragon, and dragon slaughtered man. Yet no hate could I muster for those smiling faces which did look to me for guidance. Not even my brother's righteous rage could rally me to his cause. I huddled here, secret and still, hoping against hope that which I had built would remain untouched by the chaos and carnage.
'Twould seem we share the same desire for peace, great Vritra. To that end, I wonder if we might trouble you with another question. The Telophoroi are intent on recreating the final days, an apocalyptic event which we know to predate the sundering of the star. As the longest lived among us, know you aught of this terrible cataclysm?
Nay. When war and strife drove my sire from his home, he crossed the great expanse with only our unhatched eggs as company. He alighted upon a shattered source, its 13 reflections long since scattered beyond the rift. Of events preceding his arrival, he knoweth naught, save that which Hydralin hath deigned to disclose.
I see. So again, 'tis the inscrutable Hydaelyn to whom you must look for answers.
Seek you to divine the will of this star? If so, I have a tale which may afford you some small comfort. 'Tis a story from my youth, many, many years ago. To my sire, I once posed the question, of all the stars in the sky, why didst thou settle upon this one? To which Midgardsormr did reply, 'twas the last bastion of hope. He believed so long as Hydaelyn endured, so too might dragonkind. Solemn and portentous were his words. What deeper meaning they held, I could not, dared not pursue. 'Tis a stone I've left unturned ever since. Yet take you solace in the knowledge that whatsoever Hydaelyn does strive towards, 'tis an ideal which hath earned my sire's conviction.
Thank you, Vritra. You've given us warm reassurance in a world gripped by cold uncertainty.
While I'm sure we all have a great many questions, I think it's time we collect the talismans and be on our way. Our fight against the Telophoroi is far from finished.
We must take our leave, but please do inform us if we can provide any further assistance.
Prithee, a moment. There is one whom my sire hath judged worthy of honor and respect. The one known to men as Eorzea's champion. This hero of renown and rumor, 'tis thee. I know of his clash with Omega, and the long slumber which was his price. Yet even closed in sleep, my father's eyes are far from blind. He is watching over thee, watching over this world. 'Twas a revelation most pleasing that thou, a child of man, had gained Midgardsormr's trust, but alongside mine elation runneth a rivulet of dread. For upon thy life's reel wind too many threads of fate, power, weal enmeshed with woe. Amidst this tangled knot thou shalt know no rest. 'Tis an endless confluence of forces, a struggle without surcease. More terrible still is the attrition wrought upon thy companions, as they are swept up in the storm of thine existence. guard and protect them well. They will be your strength and your salvation. The hope thou wilt need come the end. Even cowering behind my curtain, I know the suffering of the powerful. I have watched my siblings driven mad by loss. Thus do I exhort thee to spare no effort to keep thy loved ones safe.
Apologies. We hadn't meant to interrupt.
It's just that we do have a history of suddenly collapsing, and when you didn't follow us out...
'Tis I who must apologize. I have detained your champion overlong with idle chatter. Go. At war's end, I pray I welcome thee back into my hall, where together with thy joyful comrades, you may toast your triumph.
These are the talismans we were promised.
Yes, and I made a quick count. There are far more than we could have hoped for. Enough to outfit an entire company of soldiers, in fact. Considering the involved process, that they were able to manufacture so many in such a short span of time is nothing short of a miracle.
Once we have distributed them to our allies in Eorzea and the Far East, we'll have a fighting chance to bring down the other spires, just as we did with the Tower of Zot.
Or we could use them to invade Garlemald proper, and strike directly at the Telophoroid's base of operations. Of course, we would need to consult with various Alliance leaders before such a drastic measure could even be contemplated. To which end, I could set out forthwith and present the idea to each of our allies in person.
Pray allow me to undertake some few of those journeys. I find myself restless and in need of purposeful duties.
I can head eastward. Bosnia and Dalmasca are just a short hop from here. And Doma's shinobi network should come in handy for passing on the word.
We shall share the burden then. Meanwhile, I think it best that you and the others take the talismans back to the Baldessian Annex. We must keep them safe and secure until we've decided upon a course of action.
Please, I must speak with you.
Nidana, you're awake.
Yes. When I spoke with the carer at my bedside, she told me that one of the scions, a young woman, had cleansed me of the tower's corruption. It seems I'd been asleep ever since the treatment. But when I awoke and learned you were all still here, I knew I had to come.
As you said, Nidana was captured only recently. Such a brief exposure is swiftly cured, so I tended to her before we gathered at Megaduta.
And I am truly grateful that you did. I cannot thank you enough. All of you, for everything you've done. Destroying the tower, rescuing our people. You've saved Thavnair from an awful fate.
Yet who has truly saved whom? Due in no small part to thine inspirational courage, the alchemists were successful in reproducing warding scales of proven efficacy. Replications of thy work now stand ready to travel across the seas, unto the hands of those who might wield them against this rising evil.
The talisman? Is this true? Oh, I was so groggy from sleep. I didn't even think to ask. Oh, our great work sent across the seas. It was worth it. Oh, it was all worth it.
Look at that! Its color is completely changed.
What do you have there? How unusual. I wonder if the effect is a reaction to Akasha.
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with that term.
Akasha? It is one of the unseen energies defined by Harnish alchemical theory. Though a gross oversimplification, some describe it as an essence influenced by feelings.
You imply that it is distinct from ether?
Foreign scholars often conflate the two, but we see them as separate concepts. Ether is an energy which permeates the land. It exists within animals, objects, even the air we breathe, affecting all through which it flows. Akasha, on the other hand, exists in a domain beyond our reach. A gift bestowed from on high, or torn from the heavens in some traditions. Akasha can neither be created nor destroyed. It is beyond our power to purposefully alter or manipulate. The only thing observed to influence it is an abundance of, I want to say, spiritual emotion. As a veteran of the battlefield, surely you've experienced moments of desperation or exaltation when you've transcended the usual limits of your capabilities. That is a manifestation of Akasha, the invisible essence harnessed by heart, mind, and unyielding spirit.
I really must hear more about this theory. Our disciplines are based entirely upon the idea that ether is the fundamental form of all energy.
I'm glad my haphazard explanation has piqued your interest. But even for us, Akasha is a somewhat abstract field of study. A lack of practical application lends itself poorly to formalized research. Which is why my analysis of your flower can amount to little more than idle speculation. I am sorry.
Nonsense! You have nothing to be sorry for. Your insight is much appreciated.
Shall we depart for Sharlayan then? I will see to it that the talismans arrive at the Annex.
And we will be in touch once our talks are concluded. I suggest you rest while you can. From here onward, sleep is bound to be in short supply.